Coming up on show 675, progress continues well at Gigafactory 4 in Germany, unless you count the 87 pounds of ammunition and bombs they just found. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening around the world. Welcome to EV News Daily, the edition for Thursday, 23rd of January. My name is Martyn Lee, going through every EV story that I can find to save you time. Also talking about a former Ford CEO on this podcast, saying that EVs, they're the future. Also, Tesla Model Y delivery rumours. Tesla tops 100 billion in market capitalisation, and 700 Jaguar I-Pace EVs heading to the National Health Service here. If you haven't checked out the website yet for EVs and T, and you're on the east coast of the US, maybe you're in Florida, maybe you want to head to Miami in a couple of weeks' time. It's going to be at Base Camp Miami on Saturday, 8th of February. So just over 2 weeks away. Some amazing guest speakers, by the way. Incredible guest speakers are heading along to that. Plus, there's going to be music and talks and Q&A sessions as well. A big meetup, and it's all organised by the team at myev.com, along with Inside EVs and Evernex as well. Get your RSVP in by going to the URL evsandT.com. Well, the former Ford CEO Mark Fields was on CNVC this week and says EVs are the future. Given that isn't up for debate, what big questions did remain? Well, he said when automakers get payback and how fast EV adoption will happen are both big uncertainties. I got 3 clips to play you from CNVC which I tracked down, and this is fascinating. Someone who lived and breathed the issues which you and I talk about on a daily basis. He has more first-hand experience, though, than many others, and he did talk about how Elon Musk is creating demand and how Tesla can be profitable.
Well, you know, it's very interesting. EVs are the future of the industry. The question, though, is when's the payoff and what's the adoption rates? And if you look at what Tesla has done, they have really created a very kind of iconic brand for electrification. He's done a very good job with his organization in creating an aspirational brand for electric vehicles. And I think investors right now are standing back and saying the big macros, electrification is coming, they have a good brand. They're ramping the plant in China right now, they're building the plant in Europe. And I think they're also viewing it as beyond just an automotive maker. You know, they have a solar business, they have an energy storage business. So I think all that wrapped together, investors are, getting very excited. The question, though, is can they consistently be profitable? And, we'll see that in the next quarter's results.
Here he is on automakers trying to do what Tesla's done, but because of their legacy costs facing issues.
The electrified models are showing up this year. The question is, will customers to the same degree they have for Tesla? And to me, it's really around the demand factor. From a cost standpoint, yes, it's still more expensive than internal combustion engines, and consumers are very pragmatic. But over the next 4 or 5 years, that cost differential will go away. The question is, will there be natural demand to get mass adoption? And Tesla's done a really good job on early adopters and creating that brand.
And finally, on EVs basically being a big computer on wheels, plus his thoughts on autonomy.
But what's not talked about is when you have an electrified product, there's lots of software management in that. They have a big advantage over the traditional OEMs as they are just now starting to introduce some of their electrified products, and it's yet to be seen, can they master that? I thought was interesting, the CEO of VW last week in an internal meeting said, listen, we are far behind on software and we need to up our game. That's really interesting comment coming as they're launching their ID3, which says, are they having issues as they ramp and master the software skills necessary? Who knows?
Speaking of software, autonomous is also, again, in part of the investment case for Tesla, where a lot of people who are positive on the company's prospects believe it has an opportunity to dominate.
You can get 95% of mastery of what you need. It's the last 5% that's really hard. And in the case of autonomous vehicles, you're designing for rules of the road, but then you also have to design for the unwritten rules of the road. And so I think that is pushing out some of the timelines. And in the case of Tesla, I think what some are thinking is, listen, they've been on the road, they collect a lot of data from their cars, they do over-the-air updates. If and when AVs come to pass, which they will, it'll just be pushed back, will Tesla have an advantage because they have that network of users? And could those network of users use that for car service or things of that nature.
So, what didn't he talk about, at least in the clip that I could find online? Well, I guess thinking about it, he could name the issues which specifically face Ford and what they're facing now, the headwinds they're facing. Also, he didn't name any other automakers, didn't specifically say that Teslas were better, although he raved about Tesla's software, I suppose. So he was still careful with his words, but there's a big insight there for you and I to have a listen to. Fascinating, from a former Ford CEO. Right, moving on to what now seems like a daily Tesla Model Y rumour. There's been some chatter on the forums that some Model Y reservation owners have received calls confirming their Model Y orders and telling them when deliveries are going to occur. Thanks to Zach at Clean Technica for spotting this one. Via Reddit, one person claims that a Tesla staff member talked to them and indicated that a Model Y Performance could be delivered next month in February, whereas the Model Y Long Range, which they've ordered, would be off in March or April. The reservation holder reportedly resides in Ontario. Now, this, beware, is coming from Reddit. Use Reddit at your peril, although this particular user has been active on Reddit since 2016. They haven't just registered an account last week to put something fake online, but that would mean it's a founder's edition, because those are the ones they're going to make first, and there was no mention of that. And first deliveries in Ontario, Canada? Nah, not going to happen. First deliveries are going to be the Founders Edition Model Ys to Elon's friends, family, Tesla co-workers. They're going to be in California. The first Model Ys won't be going to Canada, surely. Well, that's my take on it, but Clean Technica running a story to say that they will. We'll see. I'll pop a link to Clean Technica if you want to read the rest of the article. I remain sceptical on that one. Well, Tesla shares surged to a fresh all-time high yesterday on Wednesday, lifting Elon Musk's clean energy car maker past the $100 billion mark and extending a run that's taken his company past the likes of Ford, then General Motors and Volkswagen, all in less than a decade, says TheStreet.com. Well, Tesla shares were marked 8.1% higher on Wednesday at $591, an all-time high that puts the stock to a market value of $106.6 billion and extending its rise since June the 3rd. To around 230%. Tesla's market value just overtook Volkswagen Group at the start of trading, and Europe's largest car maker down to 100.7 billion. Japan's Toyota, however, does remain the world leader with a market value of 198 billion. So Tesla won't be number one in the world for a very long time. I did also see the Wall Street Journal, by the way, running an article with the headline reasons why Tesla isn't bigger than Volkswagen, and they went into lots of things that if you close one eye and stand on one leg, put your finger in the air and hope the wind is blowing in the right direction, they could prove that the Tesla wasn't bigger. It was all to do with, cars delivered and volume and blah, blah, blah. We are fans of both automakers on this podcast, but the Wall Street Journal, I guess, just couldn't possibly bear. I mean, they're not quite as bad as Business Insider, but I don't think they could possibly bear to write a positive headline about Tesla. So they went with reasons why they're not bigger. But most other outlets running the story that actually, when it comes to market capitalization, Tesla bigger than VW, of course they're not bigger than VW, because so much of the future growth of Tesla, of their future vehicle business, their future solar business, their future energy business, their future storage business is being built into that stock price right now. Now, they make a handful of cars compared to VW. They're still a niche player compared to VW, really. Jaguar, though, are very busy selling their I-Paces on a fleet scale. Jaguar Land Rover and the National Health Service of this country have teamed up in a deal that'll see 700 Jaguar I-Pace EVs available for public sector staff over the agreement, which comes via Northumbria's Fleet Solutions deal, and it allows staff from 200 organisations within the NHS to lease an I-Pace for themselves. It'll be a 3-year period. The move helps the NHS to keep its plan of reducing their carbon footprint, and according to Motor1.com, the fleet of I-Paces will be available to any public sector staff member who works for the qualifying organisation and that are signed up to the NHS's Fleet Solutions from April 2020. Payment for the cars will come directly from your salary. BMW are next, and BMW i Ventures has invested in the software motor company, SMC. SMC is a Silicon Valley-based company developing reliable, efficient, intelligent motor systems, according to Green Car Congress. Electric vehicles will require lower costs and longer ranges if they're going to reach ubiquity. And they will. We know costs are going down. We know battery costs have gone from about $1,000 per kilowatt hour to $100. At least at cell level, and maybe even at pack level for some. We'll find out more at Tesla's Battery Day very soon. SMC's technology enables low-cost motors, and that lowers the cost of the battery for comparable range with higher efficiency. Greg Smithies of BMW i Ventures said this, and I quote, "Electric motors are a massive $100 billion market, and they move our modern world while consuming 45% of the world's electricity. So investing in a company that can deliver huge electrical cost savings while selling motor systems that are lower cost, more reliable, and made from sustainable materials seems like a no-brainer." End quote. Yeah, we think about electric motors and we think largely about the motor that drives the wheels on the cars that we drive. But there are other motors in cars. I mean, there's motors in things like HVAC systems. And so they are investing in any way that electrons are being used to drive a motor. Not necessarily the drive motor, though. Well, the YouTube channel Autogeful recently had an opportunity to test drive the crossover SUV, the Vauxhall/Opel Grandland X Hybrid 4. And it's going to have two siblings from the same family. The Peugeot 3008 GT Hybrid 4 and the Citroën C5 Aircross. All the same car, really. Says Inside EVs, the all-wheel drive plug-in, which I told you about on last Saturday's plug-in special, by the way, is front-wheel drive, and so that's all-wheel drive, but there is a front-wheel drive version coming, and it is one of the first attempts from PSA at making a plug-in car under the name PSA Group that's got 31 miles of all-electric range. That's about 50 kilometres. It's got a 13.2 kilowatt-hour battery. It's all-wheel drive. It's got 220 kilowatts of system output. That is about 300 horsepower in old money. It's got a 1.6 litre engine, it's got an 8-speed electric transmission, and it's got an 80 kilowatt electric motor up in the front, and it uses a 3.3 kilowatt onboard charger. So please, if you buy one of these, don't stick it on a Ionity or HPC charger and leave it there for an hour or two while you charge your plug-in hybrid. If you love your plug-in hybrids, by the way, and I do think there is a place for plug-in hybrids, please check out last Saturday's special podcast I made that was only about the plug-in hybrids that we can expect to see sometime in 2020. And for lots of people, they are completely the right car at the right time now. Electrify America is next. And Electrify America, the nationwide network of chargers, aren't just investing in getting you juiced up while you're on the road. They're also investing $1.3 million in the Sacramento Municipal Utility Districts, otherwise known as SMUD, Sacramento Municipal Utility District's Energy Storage Share Program, which incentivizes energy storage in locations that are what they call grid-stressed throughout the city. According to ChargedEVs.com, through the program, Electrify America will receive credits for the demand reduction at its 12 charging stations powered by SMUD in the Sacramento area. So the CEO of SMUD, or SMUD, is Arlen Orchard, said this, and I quote, "This program will help address peak energy demands, minimise impacts to the grid, and support the expansion of charging in our community." End quote. Yeah, battery storage is going to be one of those big stories. I know that the cars and vehicles we drive, the cars, the trucks, the delivery lorries, they're always going to get the big headlines, I think, over the next couple of years. But we should also be talking about battery storage, which is going to be a huge thing, partly because those vehicles will be battery storage, but also because we're going to be needing to use more electricity over the next period of time, the next 5, 10, 20 years. But we don't need to make it immediately. We can store it. And battery storage technology is going to be one of the things that really defines the next era of industrialization in the world. All forms of energy storage, actually, whether that's hydrogen or whether that is using some sorts of renewable energy and storing it somewhere. But cars are going to be a really, really big part of that as well. There'll also be the issue of generation yourself, or micro generation. Maybe you've got solar panels on your roof or a wind turbine in your back garden. That will all need to be stored, because otherwise you can only use what you're producing or exporting back to the grid. Well, let's stay on this topic, and in Bergdorf Quarter of Hamburg, a container with a total capacity of half a gigawatt, 500 kilowatt hours, has been connected to the depot, the charging network at the VHH depot. The MAN Truck and Bus Company and VHH want to work together to test how assembling used car batteries together will behave after initial use in vehicles is done and a stationary energy storage system under real-world operating conditions can be assessed. Well, it's a white container and it contains 50 batteries, which were previously installed in the VW Passat GTE, and it's located there. Each battery has a capacity of around 10 kilowatt hours, meaning the container has a total capacity of, well, actually it's 495 kilowatt hours, about half a megawatt. The batteries are mounted on racks and interconnected via battery management systems, BMSs, to form one large battery. One objective of the project is to develop a flexible battery storage concept which allows for the replacement of batteries. That's great news, and good news that this bus company in Germany, VHH, want to, at their depot, when they come back with their buses, charge up their public vehicles on stored energy. The only thing that strikes me as weird in this story, and forgive me, it may not be weird, is that this is, well, it's a great press release for a start. It's a great thing to do. It's a great thing to get attention for this project. But the 50 batteries from old VW Passat GTEs. The Passat GTE hasn't been around that long. I mean, it's still a pretty new car. Maybe there's been a few written off in crashes and VW have somehow managed to track them all down. But really, have they managed to have so many cars get so old that they're now written off? It's the only thing that doesn't seem right to me in this story. Like, how are 50 of them easily at hand? I mean, look, even the oldest of... What's the oldest Leaf in this country? Would it be a 2011 Nissan Leaf? I think the oldest ones are probably about 2011? I don't know, man. But it's going to be like something like that, like a 2010, 2011 Nissan Leaf. It's probably one of the oldest ones that you can get. You know what? So many of them are still going strong. Okay, imagine with one or two battery bars maybe lost, or maybe a couple more if it's been rapid charged a lot and very high mileage. But the Passat isn't very old. Certainly not been around long enough for them to have done a couple of 100,000 miles and then be taken down the scrapyard. So I wonder where those 50 batteries have actually come from. Maybe, I don't know, look, I'm just guessing here. Maybe there were 50 test cars. Maybe VW had 50 cars for staff or for, you know, cold weather testing, hot weather testing that they used when they developed the car that have kind of been, you know, sitting around because they can't sell them. I don't know. That doesn't sound like that these cars have reached the end of their life. I'm not saying they've done anything wrong here. It just looks weird to me. Anyway, moving on. Owning an electric car actually eases range anxiety. Electric car ownership is the cure for range anxiety. AAA released their latest EV study yesterday, and it found car buyers shouldn't dismiss pure electric cars until they live with one, says CNET. Well, they surveyed 40,000 electric vehicle owners. This is a massive, massive study. I mean, to do 1,000 or 2,000 is statistically accurate enough for most surveys, but to talk to 40,000 EV owners and 1,000 plug-in hybrid owners, AAA concluded that owning an EV is the best prescription for the unknown factors that still surround them. 71% of those surveyed were first-time EV buyers. 96 of them said they will buy an EV next. 43% of them said they drive more now they own an EV. On average, 75% of owners charge their car at home. The average EV driver does 39 miles. And AAA asked if owning an EV meant they felt better about range anxiety. The majority said yes. As soon as they bought the EV, the range anxiety went away. And I have long said range anxiety is a phrase that whoever coined it should hang their head in shame, because there's no such thing as range anxiety. It's a bit like saying you have range anxiety with your petrol or diesel car. I mean, if you don't put fuel in it, you're going to stop travelling. Okay, so the early EVs did 40, 50, 60, 100 miles if you were lucky. I get that. But range anxiety isn't a thing for EV owners. And this is a big study. Let's look at those numbers again. I'm going to tweet these numbers out and sort of pin them to the top of my timeline for a couple of weeks. 96% of EV owners will buy another EV next. 43% of them drive more. 75% of owners only, maybe I didn't stress that, only charge their car at home. You know what? That it's in itself deserves remembering next time someone challenges you on EVs or is a doubter. 40,000 people were asked, 75% of them only charge at home. And they do on average 39 miles a day. So when someone says, oh yes, I'll buy an EV when they can do 700 miles like my diesel car. Okay, well, first of all, you never drive 700 miles on a go. But secondly, all of those objections just don't exist anymore. Right, moving on. Officials in the German state of Brandenburg have discovered a bit of a problem. Actually, £187 worth of problems. £187 of World War II ammunition just got discovered at Tesla's planned factory for Gigafactory 4. The MOG newspaper said 25 unexploded bombs could be in the area, according to IB Times. It's a real problem in Germany. On Tuesday, thousands of German workers had to evacuate after a bomb that weighed over £1,000 was found on the western German city of Cologne, and on the west of Cologne, rather, I should say. And on the same day, actually, on Tuesday this week, authorities defused another bomb. That was central Berlin. This is a real problem. No one's coming off very well in this whole situation. Many of them are bombs that were dropped on the Germans by, this is awkward, that had exploded. And so, big job to do. Big job to do. And let's hope that everyone comes out of this nice and safely, and it all gets... And it's a good thing that land is now... I know that they're... the Tesla doubters, EV doubters, say, well, you're cutting down the trees to make a gigafactory. Firstly, they're planting 3 trees for every one they cut down, but also, it's not like you're going to take your dog for a walk in that forest, is it? There's 25 unexploded bombs around, so it's good news it's being cleared and made safe. Hey, question of the week. Have you sent yours in yet? I'd love to hear from you, and I'll read out your email on Sunday. With myev.com, question of the week. With increasing attacks on EVs and vandalism caught on camera, things like Sentry mode on Teslas, why do you think some people have a problem with EVs? Why do you think some people have a problem with electric vehicles? Email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com. Leave a comment on my social media or the YouTube comments. Thank you so much to 230 patrons of the podcasts. I went on to Patreon about 18 months ago now, thinking, no, nobody will do it. It's fine, I'll get 1 or 2 people. And then 5 minutes later, lots of people were saying, hey, happy to support the podcast, happy to support your work, happy to support what you're doing. And thank you very, very, very much if you are one of those. If you want to know what it's all about, by the way, then Patreon is patreon.com/evnewsdaily. There is absolutely no reason why you feel that you should have a look at that. I'll make the show for free, whatever happens. There are 674 episodes that I've made for you in the archive. The blog is evnewsdaily.com. It's not fancy, by the way. It is self-taught WordPress. But it does a job. And it's as good as I can do myself anyway, with these 2 hands and this tiny brain. If you can share the podcast with someone who you think is into EVs, who could do with learning, who's kind of into it, like maybe someone who is, just sort of getting, on the road, or maybe they're an EV fan, they haven't heard of the podcast yet. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 left. Please forward it on. They might enjoy it. In the meantime, come and say hi on social media. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow. And remember, there's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.